The smell of turkey and pumpkin pie filled my parents' house as I pulled into the driveway for our annual Thanksgiving dinner. My simple Honda Civic looked out of place next to my sister Diana's new Mercedes and my parents' BMW. But that was about to change, not that they knew it yet. I adjusted my modest sweater and grabbed the apple pie I'd brought, prepared for another holiday of subtle jabs about my underachieving lifestyle. At 32, Sophie Turner, was the family disappointment, the one who'd left a promising career in finance to waste time with that internet thing, as my father loved to say. The door opened before I could knock. "Oh, Sophie's here," my mother announced, her voice carrying that familiar tone of resignation. "And she brought store-bought pie again." "It's homemade, Mom," I said, stepping inside. But she'd already turned away, rushing back to fawn over Diana, who was showing off her latest designer purchase. "Look what Richard bought me," Diana squealed, displaying a diamond bracelet that probably cost more than what they thought I made in 3 months. Richard, her investment banker husband, stood nearby, basking in the family's approval. "Now that's how a husband should treat his wife," Mom beamed. "If only you'd accepted Michael's proposal last year, Sophie. He's a partner at his law firm now, you know." I bit back a smile, thinking about Michael's recent attempt to secure investment from my company, not that he knew it was mine. His proposal had been as poorly planned as his marriage one had been. "Sophie's too busy with her little website project," Diana smirked. "What was it again? Something about online investments." "Digital investment solutions," I corrected quietly, setting down my pie. "We help people manage their portfolios." "Right," my father scoffed from his leather armchair. "While your sister and Richard manage real money for real clients. How many users does your little website have now?" 20. I thought about the actual numbers, over 2 million active users and growing. About the recent valuation that had put InvestSmart at just over $100 million. About the $12 million I'd made when we sold a minor stake to venture capitalists last month. "It's going well," I said simply. "Well enough to finally move out of that tiny apartment?" Diana pressed. "I mean, really, Sophie. You're in your 30s living like a college student. If they only knew about the penthouse I'd just bought, the one I was waiting to move into until after today's inevitable drama." "Speaking of money," my mother interjected, "Diana and Richard have some wonderful news." Diana practically bounced with excitement. "We're buying our dream house. It's perfect, 6 bedrooms, pool, tennis court. Only $4 million. "That's great," I managed, watching Richard shift uncomfortably. I knew from my industry contacts that his firm was struggling, that his last 3 investments had tanked. "The only problem," my mother continued, frowning slightly, "is the down payment. With the market being what it is." "We're a little short," Diana admitted. "Just temporarily, of course. Richard's bonus should cover it, but that's not until March." I could see where this was heading. Diana had always been the favorite, the one who deserved the best. Since childhood, I'd been expected to give up things for her: toys, clothes, even my college fund when she decided to extend her education another year. Then Diana's phone chimed. She glanced at it and her eyes went wide. "Oh, my God." She stared at me, her face turning red. "Sophie, there's a news article about InvestSmart. They're saying..." She swallowed hard. "They're saying the founder just made $12 million in their last funding round." The room fell silent. All eyes turned to me. "And?" I asked calmly, taking a sip of water. "And the founder's name is Sophie Turner." Diana shrieked. "You have $12 million. My father's newspaper dropped to the floor. My mother's hand flew to her throat. Richard suddenly looked very, very interested. "Actually," I said, standing up, "I have quite a bit more than that." The silence lasted exactly 3 seconds before my family exploded. $12 million? My mother gasped. "All this time you've been, and you didn't help your sister?" Diana's face had transformed from shock to something uglier. "You let me struggle with the down payment when you've been sitting on millions? What kind of sister are you?" I stayed calm, moving to pour myself a glass of wine. "Struggle? You mean choosing between a 6-bedroom mansion and a 5-bedroom one? That kind of struggle." "Now, Sophie," my father leaned forward, his tone shifting to the one he used for business deals. "Clearly this is a family matter. Diana and Richard need this house. It's perfect for the grandchildren they're planning to give us. Of course. Diana's hypothetical children, the future grandchildren my parents had been guilting me about not providing. Never mind that Diana wasn't even pregnant yet. The down payment is only $800,000, Diana said as if she were asking to borrow $20. I have $12 million. You won't even miss it. Richard cleared his throat. Actually, honey, with the current market conditions we might need a bit more. Maybe $2 million? Just to be safe. I took another sip of wine, remembering all the family dinners where they'd mocked my career choices. The Christmas parties where Diana had bragged about her corporate job while belittling my startup. The countless times they'd called my work, that little internet thing. $2 million, I repeated slowly. You want me to give you $2 million because... Why exactly? Because I'm your sister. Diana stood up, her designer dress rustling. Because I deserve that house. I've always done everything right: college, corporate job, marriage to a successful man. I deserve this more than you deserve $12 million for some stupid website. My mother nodded vigorously. Diana's right, sweetheart. She's always been the responsible one. This is your chance to finally contribute to the family. Contribute. I felt a laugh bubble up. Like when you took my college fund for Diana's extra year of school. Or when you made me give up my car so she could have a new one for her sweet 16. That was different, my father waved dismissively. Diana needed those things. She had a plan, a proper career path. And what do you call what I've built? I asked quietly. Oh please, Diana scoffed. You got lucky with some app. Richard actually works for his money. He understands finance, the real market. I pulled out my phone, pulling up Richard's company's latest financial reports, public information that apparently no one in my family had bothered to read. You mean the same Richard whose last 3 investment funds lost 60% of their value? I watched Richard's face pale. The same Richard who's being investigated by the SEC for questionable trading practices? How did you? Richard sputtered. I'm in finance too, remember? That little internet thing gives me access to a lot of market data, including the fact that your firm is hemorrhaging clients. Diana's face had turned an interesting shade of red. You're lying. Richard is successful. We deserve dash. You deserve nothing. I cut her off, my voice steel. You want to know what I did to earn that $12 million? I worked 80-hour weeks for 5 years. I sold my car to fund initial development. I lived on ramen noodles and slept on my office floor while building my company. What exactly have you done to deserve any of it? The room fell silent again, but this time it was heavy with shock. They'd never heard me speak this way before. I'd always been the quiet one, the agreeable one, the one who gave in to Diana's demands. But... my mother's voice quavered, we're family. Are we? I stood up, walking to the window. Because from where I'm standing, we're only family when you want something from me. How dare you? Diana's voice cracked with rage. After everything we've done for you dash. Everything you've done for me? I turned back to face them. Please enlighten me. What exactly have you done except tear down every dream I've ever had? My father stood up, attempting his authoritative stance. We supported you. We gave you a roof over your head, an education dash. Half an education, I corrected him. Until you gave my college fund to Diana because she needed an extra year to find herself in Europe. That was a valuable cultural experience. Diana protested. Right. I saw the Instagram posts from your cultural yacht parties. I pulled out my tablet, opening a folder I'd kept for just this moment. While you were finding yourself in Monaco, I was working 3 jobs to finish my degree. Would you like to see the spreadsheets of every penny I had to borrow? Richard, trying to salvage the situation, stepped forward with his best client meeting smile. Sophie, let's be reasonable here. This is a sound investment opportunity. The property values in that neighborhood are guaranteed to appreciate dash. Like your last 3 investment funds were guaranteed to appreciate? I watched his smile fade. Tell me, Richard, does Diana know about the margin calls? About the clients pulling their money? About the internal memo suggesting massive layoffs next quarter? The color drained from his face. Diana turned to him, her expression wavering between anger and fear. Richard, what is she talking about? She's just trying to manipulate us, my mother interjected quickly. Sophie's always been jealous of your success, Diana. Ever since you were children dash. Jealous. I laughed, the sound sharp enough to make them all flinch. Let me show you what success actually looks like. I pulled up InvestSmart's latest valuation report on my tablet. That 12 million you're so desperate to get your hands on? It's barely 10% of my actual net worth. The room went completely still. Diana's mouth opened and closed without sound. My father sank back into his chair. The company is valued at over 100 million, I continued calmly. We have 2 million active users, offices in 3 countries, and we're expanding into Asia next quarter. But please, tell me more about how I got lucky with some app. 100 million? My mother's voice was barely a whisper. And growing. I set the tablet down. That little internet thing you've been mocking? It's revolutionizing how people invest. We're making financial freedom accessible to everyone, not just the wealthy elite who can afford Richard's failing investment services. Richard's face turned purple. Now wait just a minute, Dash. No, you wait, I cut him off. For years I've listened to all of you talk down to me, dismiss my work, treat me like I was throwing my life away. You never once asked about my company. Never once showed any interest in what I was building. But now that you need money, we're your family. Diana was almost screaming now. You owe us. I owe you. I pulled out one final document, a detailed ledger I'd kept since childhood. Should we talk about what's actually owed? The college fund? The car? The loans you never repaid? The family vacations I was mysteriously excluded from? I've calculated it all with interest. The ledger landed on the dining table with a soft thud. Years of financial and emotional debts, meticulously documented. My God, my father muttered, looking at the numbers. Sophie, you can't have kept track of all this. But I did. Every single time you chose Diana over me. Every time you took something from me to give to her. Every time you dismissed my dreams while funding hers. I stood up, straightening my modest sweater. And now you think you deserve a piece of what I've built? After everything you did to prevent me from building it. The tension in the room was thick enough to cut with a knife. My mother was the first to recover, switching tactics with practiced ease. Sweetheart, she said, her voice honey-sweet, we're so proud of what you've accomplished. If we'd only known Dash. You would have what? I interrupted. Treated me with basic respect? Shown even a fraction of the interest you've always shown in Diana? Required my sister to earn anything in her life instead of expecting it to be handed to her. Diana's face contorted with rage. That's not fair. I worked hard, Dash. For what? I challenged. Your job at father's friend's company? The position that magically opened up just for you? The 3 promotions you got while more qualified people were passed over. Richard cleared his throat. Now, about that investment opportunity, Dash. No. The single word cut through the room like a blade. There will be no investment. No loans. No handouts. Not anymore. My father stood up, his face reddening. You ungrateful Dash. Ungrateful. I laughed, the sound sharp and cold. Let me show you something. I pulled out my phone and played a recording from last Christmas. Sophie's little website thing? Please. She's wasting her life. Diana's the only one who's made something of herself. My mother's voice, clear as day, followed by their agreeing laughter. I have recordings of every holiday, every family dinner, every time you tore me down while building Diana up. I stopped the playback. I kept them as motivation. To remind myself why I was working so hard. Diana's face had gone pale. You recorded us? That's smart business practice, I finished for her. Something I learned while building my little website thing. Just then my phone buzzed with an incoming email. I glanced at it and smiled. Perfect timing. That's confirmation that my new penthouse purchase has closed. The one in the building your dream house overlooks. You bought. Diana's voice cracked. You can't afford. The entire top floor? Actually, I can. And unlike some people, I didn't need to beg for the down payment. My mother made one last attempt. Sophie, please. We're your family. Surely we can work something out. Maybe a loan with favorable terms. I picked up my bag and stood. You know what the saddest part is? If you'd shown me even a fraction of the love and support you showed Diana, I would have helped you. Not because you deserved it, but because that's what family does. Where are you going? My father demanded. We haven't finished discussing this. Actually, we have. I walked to the door then turned back. Oh, and Richard, you might want to check your email. My company just acquired a significant stake in your firm's largest client. There's going to be an audit of all their investment accounts, including the ones you've been managing. Richard's face went ashen. Diana whirled on him. What is she talking about? Richard. But I didn't stay to watch the implosion. As I walked to my Honda, the last modest car I would ever drive, I could hear the shouting start inside. Diana's accusations, Richard's stammered explanations, my parents' attempts to regain control of the situation. My phone buzzed again. A message from my executive team. Acquisition complete. Audit team ready to begin Monday. I smiled thinking about the changes coming. Not just the new penthouse or the company expansion, but the shift in power that my family hadn't yet fully grasped. Years of dismissal and favoritism were about to cost them more than they could imagine. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't just success. It's success they can see but never touch. Success they have to watch from the sidelines, knowing they could have been part of it if they'd only believed in you when it mattered. The next morning, headlines hit the financial news. InvestSmart acquires major stake in Preston Financial, full audit pending. Richard's firm's stock plummeted 30% before trading even opened. My phone started ringing at 6 a.m. First Diana, then my parents, then Richard himself. I let them all go to voicemail, each message more desperate than the last. Sophie, please, you have to call off the audit, Richard begged in his message. There are things, complications, that could be misinterpreted.